My name is Jessica Whitaker. I was 34 years old, living in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and working as a museum education coordinator when my brother decided my 6-year-old daughter should become a family joke on the internet. I had spent that Saturday running a children's workshop about desert animals, still wearing a name badge and glue on my sleeve, when my phone started shaking in my hand like an alarm. At first, I thought something had happened at home. Then I saw the photo. My daughter was sitting on a painted wooden coyote outside a community festival booth, cheeks pink from laughing, one hand lifted in that blurry little wave kids make when they don't know someone is turning them into content. Under her picture, my brother had written, "Some mistakes grow up and make more mistakes." My mother reacted with 3 laughing emojis. Not one, 3. Then cousins, neighbors, old church friends, and people who barely knew me started adding comments like, "savage." Finally, someone said it. And, "family humor is undefeated." My husband didn't comment. He didn't laugh. He didn't even ask me to calm down. He looked at my face, took the phone out of my hand, and said, "Screenshot everything." That was the moment I knew this wasn't going to end with an awkward apology over dinner. 1 week later, legal letters landed in their inboxes, certified envelopes hit their mailboxes, and suddenly the same people who had laughed at my child were calling nonstop. Before I tell you what my brother said next, and what happened after those letters arrived, tell me, what time is it where you are right now, and where are you watching from? I want to know how far this story travels before my family can pretend it never happened. The first thing I did after seeing the post was not scream. That surprised me. I always thought public humiliation would make a person explode, but for a few minutes, it made me strangely silent, like my body had stepped outside itself and left me sitting in the festival parking lot with a paper cup of lemonade melting in my hand. My daughter Harper was 6, and she still believed the worst thing a grown-up could do was forget to say sorry after bumping into someone. She had no language yet for adults who smiled at you during Thanksgiving and then laughed while someone called you a mistake. My husband, Ethan Brooks, drove us home without turning on the radio. Harper chattered from the back seat about the coyote statue and the sticker she had gotten from a pottery booth. Every happy word out of her mouth made the caption feel uglier. At home, I tucked her into the den with crayons and a bowl of apple slices, then locked myself in the laundry room with Ethan because it was the only room far enough from her ears. He had already made a folder on his laptop. Screenshots, names, timestamps, reactions, shares. "Jess," he said quietly, "your brother didn't just insult you. He used Harper's image without permission and attached a cruel caption to it, and your mother helped it spread." I wanted to defend my mother out of habit. I wanted to say she probably didn't read it, probably thought it was some inside joke, probably tapped the emojis without thinking. But I had spent my whole life making excuses for Diane Whitaker. She was the kind of mother who cared less about whether a room was peaceful and more about whether people outside the room thought we were respectable. Caleb, my older brother, had always been her golden son because he was loud, charming, and photogenic in a way she confused with successful. He staged luxury homes for realtors. Guy posted polished videos about taste, legacy, and family values, and spoke like a motivational speaker who had never once paid his own emergency bill on time. I was the daughter who got pregnant young, finished my degree at night, and built a stable life one exhausted year at a time. My family called that resilience when they wanted to brag about me. They called it a mistake when they wanted to put me back in my place. That night, Harper wandered into the kitchen while I was pretending to make pasta. She held up her drawing from the festival, a purple coyote with wings, and asked, "Mommy, why did Grandma put laughing faces on my picture?" My hand froze around the wooden spoon. Ethan looked at me over her head, his jaw tight. I knelt down so she wouldn't have to look up at my hurt. "Sometimes grown-ups use the internet badly," I said. choosing every word like I was walking across broken glass. But you did nothing wrong. She nodded, but her eyes stayed serious. Children know when adults are lying around the edges. Later, after she fell asleep, I opened Caleb's post again. It had been shared 14 times. One woman from my mother's charity circle had written, "Some people never learn consequences." Another commented, "This is what happens when girls grow up too fast." That one made my throat close because it wasn't aimed at Harper alone. It was aimed at me at 21, scared and pregnant, sitting in my mother's kitchen while Caleb called me the family warning label. Back then I swallowed it because I needed help. Now I had a husband, a career, savings, and a child watching me learn whether love meant silence. What would you do if the people who called themselves family made your child the punchline? Would you keep peace, or would you finally keep evidence? By midnight, Ethan had counted every comment. By 1 in the morning, I had emailed an attorney whose business card I had saved after a museum liability seminar. By sunrise, the post was still up, and my mother had added another comment. "People are too sensitive these days." That was the sentence that changed my grief into strategy. Monday morning, I walked into the museum with concealer under my eyes and a smile I had no energy to wear. The Museum of Desert Discovery was not glamorous, but it was mine in the way a place becomes yours when you have bled time into it. I designed hands-on learning programs for children, fossil puzzles, sensory-friendly exhibit hours, bilingual scavenger hunts, workshops where shy kids could touch clay, feathers, seed pods, and leave believing the world had room for their questions. My job was to make children feel safe enough to be curious. That was why Caleb's post didn't stay in the category of family drama. By 10 that morning, 2 parents from a donor committee had seen it. One of them sent a careful message to my work email saying she was concerned about the public conflict involving a child connected to museum staff. Another asked whether the museum's social media policy covered online disputes. My brother had taken my daughter's face, his old resentment toward me, my mother's approval, and turned it into something that could touch my professional reputation. I sat in my office surrounded by paper lizards and foam cactus cutouts, reading those messages while a group of preschoolers sang in the next room. My attorney called during lunch. Her name was Marin Cole, and her voice had the calm sharpness of someone who knew exactly how ugly families could become when consequences arrived in formal language. She told me the photo mattered. The caption mattered. The public comments mattered. The fact that Harper was a minor mattered. The repeated engagement from relatives mattered. "Do not message him emotionally," she said. "Do not argue in the comments. Preserve everything. Ask once, in writing, for removal. If he refuses or escalates, we send formal notice." My stomach dropped when she said formal notice, because part of me still wanted this to end with my mother calling and saying, I was wrong. Instead, my mother called at 12:37 p.m. and opened with, "Are you really making a big thing out of Caleb's joke?" I stepped into the storage hallway between bins of puppet supplies and pressed the phone to my ear. "He called my daughter a mistake." "He didn't mean Harper. He meant the situation." "The situation has a name. She is 6. My mother sighed, the tired, theatrical sigh she used when she wanted me to feel childish. "Jessica, you always take everything as an attack. Caleb is under a lot of pressure right now. His staging business has been slow. He needs engagement. You know how social media works." For a second, I couldn't speak. My daughter had been turned into engagement. My mother had just admitted it without shame. "Take the post down," I said. "Tell him to take it down and apologize." Her tone hardened. "Don't threaten your brother over a Facebook caption." "I'm not threatening him." I stared at a bin labeled kindergarten touch table. "I'm warning you both that this crossed a line." That afternoon, I sent one text to Caleb, written exactly as Marin advised. Remove the post using Harper's image and caption by 6 p.m. today. Do not repost, share, or reference her again. Please confirm when removed. He responded 20 minutes later with a laughing GIF. Then he posted a story showing a screenshot of my text with my name partly covered but not enough. His caption read, "When people weaponize motherhood because they can't take a joke." My phone began to buzz again. Not just relatives now, strangers, men with sunglasses profile pictures, women from local groups. Someone commented on the museum's public page, "Maybe your staff should learn humor before teaching kids." I locked my office door and sat on the floor behind my desk. For 5 minutes, I let myself shake. Then I opened my laptop and forwarded everything to Marin. At home that evening, Ethan cooked dinner because I kept forgetting what I was holding. Harper was quiet, which scared me more than questions. She pushed peas around her plate and finally asked, "Is Uncle Caleb mad because of me?" Ethan set his fork down so slowly it made no sound. I moved to her chair and held both her hands. "No, baby. Adults are responsible for their own choices. You are not responsible for anyone being unkind." She nodded, but tears filled her eyes anyway. That was the moment I stopped wondering whether legal action would make me a bad daughter or a bad sister. The only question left was whether doing nothing would make me a bad mother. I agreed to meet Caleb on Wednesday morning at a place called Juniper and Stone, a cafe with white walls, blue mugs, and customers who lowered their voices the second they sensed drama entering the room. I chose a public place because I did not trust him not to twist the conversation. I also wore my museum blazer because I needed armor, even if it was just linen and a name tag I forgot to remove. Caleb arrived 12 minutes late, sunglasses pushed into his hair, smelling like expensive cologne and performative confidence. He kissed the air near my cheek as if we were at a fundraiser. "Jess," he said, sliding into the chair, "you look intense." I placed my phone face down on the table and started recording, legally, openly, with the screen visible. "This conversation is being recorded." His smirk faltered. "Wow, we're doing court TV now?" "We're doing clarity." He leaned back, amused again. "Fine. Say your piece." I had rehearsed angry speeches in the shower, in the car, while packing Harper's lunch. But when I looked at him, all I could see was my daughter staring at her cereal, asking if someone was mad because of her. So I kept my voice low. "You posted my child's photo without permission. You called her a mistake. You let people insult her and me. Then you reposted my private message for attention. Remove everything and apologize publicly." Caleb rolled his eyes. "I didn't call Harper a mistake. I called your life choices a mistake. There's a difference." The words landed with such clean cruelty that I almost admired how little he tried to hide it. "You used her picture. Because it made the joke obvious. She is 6. And you were 21 when you got pregnant, Jessica. Are we all supposed to pretend that didn't derail the family?" A woman at the next table stopped stirring her coffee. I felt heat climb my neck, but I refused to look away. "You mean it derailed Mom's fantasy of what I was supposed to look like?" Caleb's face tightened. "No, I mean you got praised for surviving a mess you created, while I got blamed for not being perfect enough. Every family dinner became about poor Jessica, brave Jessica. Look how strong Jessica is. You built a personality out of consequences." There it was. Not humor. Not a bad joke. A decade of resentment wearing a caption. "And your solution was to humiliate a child?" I asked. His mouth twitched. "Your husband is making you dramatic. He's not even her real father, but he acts like he owns the family now." My chair scraped back before I realized I had moved. "Do not talk about Ethan." Caleb smiled because he thought he had found a nerve. "See? That's the problem. You replaced us, and now you want to punish us for not clapping." I stood, but I didn't leave yet. I wanted him to hear every word. No, Caleb. I stopped begging people to love my daughter quietly. That is not replacement. That is parenting. He lifted both hands. Send your little letter then. I know people. You really want museum donors and charity boards hearing how unstable you are? That was the twist I hadn't expected. He wasn't just refusing to apologize. He was threatening my job. I picked up my phone. My hands were steady now. Thank you for confirming intent. His smile disappeared. What does that mean? It means you just helped my attorney. I walked out before he could answer. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and replayed the recording once. His voice filled the small space. I didn't call Harper a mistake. I called your life choices a mistake. I sent it to Marin. Then I sent one message to Ethan. He admitted enough. Ethan replied, "Come home. We'll handle it." For the first time all week, I believed him. The legal letters went out the next Monday, and they were not soft. Marin drafted separate notices to Caleb and my mother, Diane Whitaker. Caleb's letter demanded immediate removal of all posts and stories containing Harper's image or references to her as a mistake, a written apology, preservation of all related communications, and a halt to any contact with my employer, museum donors, or community partners. My mother's letter was different. It named her participation in amplifying the post, her comments dismissing the harm, and her position in local charity circles, where her words carried influence. Diane had spent years building an identity around being the elegant mother who chaired luncheons, arranged silent auctions, and spoke about protecting children in our community. Now she was receiving a formal letter asking why she had publicly laughed at the degradation of her own granddaughter. At 9:14 a.m., Caleb called. I did not answer. At 9:16, my mother called. I did not answer. At 9:18, Caleb texted, "You've lost your mind." At 9:21, my mother texted, "Call me before you destroy this family." At 9:30, Ethan put my phone in a kitchen drawer and said, "They can talk to Marin." But they did not want Marin. They wanted the old Jessica, the one who could be pressured, guilted, cornered, and reminded that family loyalty meant absorbing injury quietly. By noon, Caleb had called 19 times. My mother had called 11. A cousin left a voicemail saying I was taking food out of Caleb's mouth. Another relative messaged that legal action was ghetto behavior, which told me exactly how they had always framed my life when I wasn't in the room. Then the second wave hit. Caleb's staging business had a partnership pending with a boutique real estate firm that worked with family-friendly relocation clients. Someone at that firm saw the screenshots because Caleb's own followers had spread them. They asked him to explain. He panicked and deleted the original post, but deletion came too late. Screenshots had already traveled farther than his charm could reach. That evening, my mother appeared at my front door holding the certified envelope like it was a dead animal. Ethan opened the door but did not invite her in immediately. "Is Harper awake?" she asked. "No," he said. "Good," she snapped, because apparently everything I say is evidence now. I stepped beside him. "If you came to apologize, come in. If you came to blame me, leave." Her eyes flashed. "Apologize? Caleb may lose a contract because of you. Caleb may lose a contract because he used a child as a punchline and threatened my job." She pushed past Ethan into the entryway, and for once, he did not move aside politely. He blocked the hallway with his body, calm but immovable. "Diane," he said, "you need to lower your voice." She looked at him like he was furniture that had spoken. "This is family. So is Harper." That shut her up for half a second. I wish I could say it softened her. It didn't. She turned to me with tears already prepared. "Do you know what your brother is going through? He borrowed money to keep his business afloat. He has clients pulling back. He's embarrassed. He should be embarrassed. I gave him money from my retirement account, she blurted. He can't afford legal trouble. That was the first crack in the wall. Ethan glanced at me. I stared at my mother. How much money? She looked away. That's not your concern. But it became my concern 2 days later when Marin forwarded a packet from Caleb's former assistant, a woman named Brielle, who had seen his posts and decided she was tired of protecting him. Brielle claimed Caleb had been using my mother's charity contacts to promote his staging business, offering discounted design consultations under the table at fundraising events. Worse, he had drafted posts from my mother's account before, making it unclear whether Diane had merely reacted with laughing emojis or allowed him access to amplify the humiliation. Suddenly, this was no longer just about one cruel caption. It was about a family machine that had used reputation as currency, and my daughter had become collateral. Marin told me to breathe before she explained the strategy. "We don't need to sue first," she said. "We need leverage, documentation, a controlled demand. If they want this quiet, they will repair the harm publicly and privately." I asked what repair could even look like. Money couldn't unmake Harper's question. An apology couldn't erase the comments. Marin answered, "Repair is not magic. It is consequence made visible." That sentence stayed with me all night. The confrontation with my mother happened on a Friday, in my own living room, under the paper stars Harper and I had made for a museum craft night. Marin attended by video call on Ethan's laptop. Diane didn't know that until she arrived with Caleb behind her, both of them dressed like they were attending a meeting where appearances could still save them. Caleb wore a navy jacket. My mother wore pearls. I wore jeans and no makeup because I was done costuming myself for people who had never mistaken my softness for anything but weakness. "This is ridiculous," Caleb said the second he saw the laptop. "You brought a lawyer into your house against your own brother?" Marin's voice came through the speaker. "Good afternoon, Mr. Whitaker. This meeting is voluntary. You're free to leave." He didn't. That was how I knew fear had finally entered the room. I placed a folder on the coffee table. Inside were screenshots of the original post, the comments, the story mocking my text, the cafe recording transcript, donor messages, museum page comments, call logs, and Brielle's statement. My mother stared at the folder but didn't touch it. "Jessica," she said in the voice she used at charity luncheons, "surely we can resolve this without humiliating anyone further." I almost laughed. "Further?" I asked. "Harper was humiliated first. I'm just refusing to keep it private for your comfort." Caleb leaned forward. "She's 6. She doesn't even understand half of this." She understood enough to ask if she was a mistake. His expression twitched. My mother closed her eyes. For the first time, I saw something like shame cross her face, but Caleb filled the silence before it could grow. "You coached her to say that." Ethan stepped forward so fast the air changed. He didn't yell. That made it worse. "Careful," he said. Caleb looked at him, then at me. "What? We're all pretending Jessica doesn't dramatize everything?" I opened the folder and took out one printed page. "This is from the cafe. You said, 'I didn't call Harper a mistake. I called your life choices a mistake.' You said, 'It made the joke obvious.' You said, 'You really want museum donors and charity boards hearing how unstable you are?'" My mother looked at Caleb. "You said that?" He swallowed. She was recording me. Marin spoke calmly. "And you were speaking voluntarily in a public cafe after being informed." Caleb's confidence cracked. Not shattered yet, but cracked enough for truth to leak out. "I was angry," he said. "Do you have any idea what it's like being compared to her?" He pointed at me. "She gets pregnant, struggles, and suddenly everyone worships her for being strong. I try to build something, and Mom treats me like a disappointment unless I perform success every second." My mother flinched. Caleb. No, don't Caleb me. His face reddened. You gave me money and then held it over me. You made me bring clients to your luncheons. You wanted me to look successful because it made you look successful. The room went silent. I had spent the week imagining Caleb as a cartoon villain, and he was cruel, yes, but he was also my mother's creation in ways none of us wanted to admit. That did not excuse him. It explained the shape of the damage. My mother sank into the armchair. I was trying to help you. You were trying to curate us, I said. My voice surprised even me. You curated Caleb into the golden sun, me into the cautionary tale, and Harper into proof that my mistake continued. You laughed because the caption matched a story you've been telling yourself for years. Diane's mouth opened, but no defense came out. I continued because stopping would have been easier, and I was done choosing easy. Here are the terms. Caleb posts a public apology drafted with Marin's approval. He states clearly that Harper was targeted unfairly, that the caption was cruel, that I did not consent to her image being used, and that no child should be spoken about that way. He removes all posts and agrees not to mention Harper online again. He sends written notices to the real estate firm and any contacted donors stating that his comments about me were retaliatory and false. He contributes to the museum's sensory-friendly children's fund, not as hush money, but because he harmed a child in a public space. And Mom, you stepped down from the Children's Futures Luncheon Committee this season. My mother's head snapped up. Absolutely not. Then we release the documentation to the committee chair and proceed. Caleb looked sick. You'd ruin us. I looked at him for a long moment. No. I am giving you the chance to stop ruining yourselves in public. My mother started crying then, not the polished tears, but the ugly kind she couldn't arrange into dignity. She's my granddaughter, she whispered. Then act like it, Ethan said. Harper's bedroom door creaked. We all turned. She stood there in yellow pajamas, holding her stuffed rabbit. My heart dropped. I didn't know how long she had been awake. Mommy? She asked. Is Grandma sad because of me? I crossed the room and knelt before her. No, baby. Grandma is sad because grown-ups made bad choices, and now they have to fix them. Diane covered her mouth with both hands. Caleb looked at the floor. And maybe that was the first real consequence. Not a letter, not money, not reputation, but a child hearing the truth stated plainly enough that nobody could twist it. The apology went up 3 days later at 7 p.m., which Marin chose because Caleb's audience was most active then. I know because he complained about the timing in 3 separate emails. His post was plain black text on a white background, no flattering angle, no music, no smug little caption. I posted a photo of my 6-year-old niece without her mother's permission and wrote a cruel caption that suggested she and her mother were mistakes. It was not humor. It was harmful. I apologized to Harper, Jessica, and Ethan. I also apologize for allowing and encouraging comments that attacked them. No child should be used as a punchline, and I take responsibility for the damage I caused. He had to pin it for 30 days. He had to turn off monetized promotional content for the week because Marin did not want him profiting from the apology. He had to send letters to the real estate firm and the museum donors he had threatened to influence. He had to make a contribution to the museum's sensory-friendly access fund, large enough to hurt, but not large enough for him to brag about like a philanthropist. My mother's consequence was quieter, but sharper. She stepped down from the Children's Futures Luncheon for personal reasons, though everyone in that circle knew enough to understand. The committee chair, a woman named Patricia, called me personally. She did not ask for gossip. She said, "I'm sorry your daughter was treated that way. We would be honored if your museum team advised next year's children's programming." That was the kind of reversal I had not expected. Caleb lost the boutique real estate partnership anyway. Not because I called them. I didn't have to. His own apology, his own followers, his own pattern did what my silence had protected him from for years. Brielle, his former assistant, later told Marin that 2 other clients had come forward complaining that Caleb mocked homeowners online after consultations. His business did not collapse overnight, but the image did. For a man who sold image, that was devastating. My mother tried to visit Harper the next week with a pink gift bag and a face full of regret. I met her outside first. "No gifts before accountability," I said. She looked wounded, then nodded. When she came in, she sat at the kitchen table across from Harper and said the hardest sentence I had ever heard from her mouth. "I laughed at something that hurt you. I was wrong. You are not a mistake. You are my granddaughter, and I should have protected you." Harper listened carefully, then asked, "Are you going to do it again?" My mother cried. "No." Harper considered this with the seriousness only children can bring to simple morality. "Okay. But Mommy says sorry means you change." I had to turn away because my eyes filled faster than I could stop them. That became the rule in our house after everything. Sorry means you change. Caleb did not get access to Harper. Not then. Maybe not ever. People kept asking if I was sad to lose my brother, but the truth was more complicated. I was sad that I had spent so many years trying to earn kindness from someone who thought cruelty was honesty. I was sad that my mother needed legal paper to see a child's pain. I was sad that family systems can train you to call disrespect humor, favoritism tradition, and silence peace. But I was not sad that I defended my daughter. Not for 1 second. A few weeks later, Harper and I stood inside the museum's new sensory room, watching children run their fingers over textured desert murals funded partly by Caleb's required contribution. There was a quiet poetry in that. The insult that had tried to shrink my daughter had helped create a space where other children could feel safe. Ethan stood beside me, his hand warm against my back. "You okay?" he asked. I watched Harper show another little girl how to press the button that made a recording of owl wings play softly overhead. She was laughing again, but this time nobody owned the image except her. "I'm getting there," I said. That night, after Harper fell asleep, I opened the folder one last time. Screenshots, letters, call logs, apology, proof. For years, I thought evidence was something you collected because you wanted revenge. Now I understood that sometimes evidence is what you collect because people keep asking you to doubt your own pain. So here is what I learned. Family is not a license to harm you. Blood does not turn cruelty into comedy. A grandmother's laugh can wound, a brother's caption can scar, and a mother's silence can teach a child the wrong lesson forever. But a boundary can teach a better one. Protection is not drama. Accountability is not betrayal. And when a child asks whether she is a mistake, the answer cannot be whispered in private while the insult stays public. It has to be louder than the people who laughed. So tell me honestly, if someone in your family humiliated your child online and everyone joined in, would you forgive quietly to keep the peace, or would you make the consequences impossible to ignore? Because I used to think keeping the family together was the highest form of love. Now I know that sometimes love means being the person brave enough to break the pattern before it reaches your child.